What's up, RotoGrinders? Really funky time in the NBA. Of course, there's an NFL Showdown slate. There's a Thursday night Showdown game. So what we're doing here is we are combining basketball with football. We assume there's a Venn diagram. Most of y'all are playing. We're going to talk about the NBA first. Of course, basketball starts first as far as their tip-off is 8 o'clock on the East Coast. 8:15 for the Jets and the Texans. Everybody excited to watch the Jets once again in prime time with the 17th straight time. I'm Dean Shavelson, joined by Will Priester, Chief. Will, how we doing on a Thursday night? Halloween?
Doing good, man. It's a little burger and fries show right here. A little combination, a little combo, a little number 12 off the menu.
What is the
basketball and football? I don't know, Dean. I just made up a combo number, but typically combos go up 9, 10, 11, 12.
Sure.
Today we'll just call this a number 2. We don't have baseball going. Thank God. The World Series ended last night, and we might have had a number 3 going. Number 3 combo. We had to talk about baseball, basketball, and football. But nonetheless, we are here to try and break this thing down. So glad to see my good friend Chop on the other side. And I don't usually get to hang out with Chop this late at night, so hopefully his kids aren't driving him too crazy while he's on this show. So yeah, let's talk about it.
What's up, Chop? Yeah, you have Halloween stuff going on. Do you have a bucket outside the house? Is somebody else manning the door? Is this invading your cereal time? I know you have a second dinner with cereal. Is your whole night thrown off?
It's definitely a weird night because it's Halloween and there's a lot of stuff going on in this house. Yeah, so it's odd like that. Yeah, Halloween. First of all, like Halloween, I hate it. It's a stupid holiday to me. That's just my opinion. Everybody teach their own. I think it's rather ridiculous, but you got people over and everybody's eating pizza and having fun, and I'm on a show, and it's fine. I actually don't mind it because, to be honest with you, kind of rather be in here in my office with the door closed than But you know
it's
what?
Close to midnight. It's close to midnight, Chop. Because something evil is lurking at the door, my brother.
Stay in your office. It's different because it's Halloween, but Chop's the only one out of this trio who's been here every single Thursday at this time since the beginning of the NFL season.
That's true. Yes. It's normal stuff, and it is a combination platter. It's like, here I am. I'm the vanilla. Yeah, look at Will. He's the chocolate. No big deal. Dean, you look like a big fat strawberry in the middle, brother.
We're like Neapolitan ice cream. Is that what you're getting at,
brother? You candy red, candy apple red. Look at you, Dean.
It's only based on my lighting, the time of day. Like the later it is, the redder my face gets.
Or you're hitting the sauce a little too much these days.
Nah, dude, I got vices, but that's not my vice. That's not. Yeah, it's been a long time since we've kicked back on Grandpa's cough medicine. All right, for Gamer as far as basketball and the association, Giannis was just officially in. He's probable every single game. Milwaukee's playing games. They do this game all the time. Eventually, they're gonna on a back-to-back or something. But yeah, he's not playing. He is playing tonight. Memphis is a disaster on their back half of a back-to-back. Kennard, Nardog still out. No Bane, no Gigi Jackson, no Conchar. Wait, I don't know if he's officially ruled out. He's doubtful, right? Conchar is doubtful. Marcus Smart also not expected to play basketball this evening. So Memphis is looking like the value team. Maxi Kleber out for Dallas. They're saying for the foreseeable future. This is DFS. We care about tonight only. Although, I do want to say what's up to chat. Chat, hit that like button and subscribe. This is why you subscribe, so you know when we're going live, because earlier in the day. Why are they not talking basketball at 5 o'clock or 6 o'clock or 6:30? This is why. Because it's a late slate, 8 o'clock, and we're condensing the basketball with the football. We'll be talking about later on all the Aaron Rodgers takes you guys can handle. Spurs still no Devin Vassell, no Trey Jones. They are in the back half of a back-to-back. They did get beat up pretty good, so the minutes were not too overwhelming last night. The big one, I think, is marketing. Well, I think we all got to think this marketing thing. And I don't believe he's playing. That's just me saying he's not playing. They're not telling you he's not playing yet because they want to keep selling those tickets. They want to keep selling, but they're in full tank mode. They're 0-4 on the season. They're loving the mistakes they made in the past couple of years, the Jazz. They tank mode too late. They win a few too many games early. They know the prize. They know the prize that's waiting there this year. They're in full effect, tank for all 82. My expectations are Markin doesn't play. We'll see. Stay tuned. And that's going to shake up the slate for sure. Bradley Beal is questionable. So I would say he's likely to play, my guess, but officially he is questionable. Steven Adams ruled in for Houston. Clippers are all good, with the exception of like Kawhi, and he's not playing until who knows when. All right, we're gonna go game by game. I'm just checking out the chat, Chop, but you're not talking, but I'm just catching up on all the all right. What was my nickname in high school? Strawberry? I don't know.
Strawberry Shavelson.
Did you go to Piper? Yeah, so
I've seen the yearbook.
You should see my senior quote. I don't think I had one actually. Was that a thing? I don't think we did one. If I did, I missed it. I didn't do the senior quote day. Anyways, we're gonna go position by position in just a second. Go around the horn, favorite plays both on DK and on FanDuel. But I wanted to get like a big picture thoughts, Chop, for basketball as far as the slate.
There you go. I was waiting for somebody to do the alert.
The breaking news.
Lauri Markkanen is out.
Oh boy, who could have predicted that? Who could have foresaw that? Right? Yeah, he's not playing for the Jazz are in full tank mode. The tank is in full effect.
Got to get Cooper Flag. Everybody wants Cooper Flag, man.
And especially Utah.
Good one, Dean. Good one.
Well, I mean, that's just.
I know. I smell what you're laying down there.
Yeah. So, and I hear he's spectacular. I've not seen him play a lick. I know you watch college basketball.
He is good. Like, no, he's not. He hadn't even played a second of college basketball yet.
Okay, well,
but he was a high school senior, and they invited him to go do the American team work out with the American team for the Olympics this past summer. Man, he was holding his own with those grown men, and he was still in high school. He's pretty amazing.
That's what I heard. All right. Do you have anything big picture before we dive in? Our projections are going to change on Utah. We'll see what happens there. So hopefully we get something soon. But yeah, I think Keontae George, my favorite play of the night, probably, all things considered. I wish Markkanen was not rolled out now. I wish they rolled him out later. But Chop, if you have anything big picture, by all means, go for it. Otherwise, just jump into your favorite plays at the point guard.
Oh, we're doing position by position.
Well, give you both. Like if you have big picture, yeah, I don't want to keep that from you.
Big picture, nah. Like it's a 4-gamer, and so it's chalky, right? And that's just the way it's going to be, especially when you get news like this nice and early, and everybody can adjust for it nice and early. Things are going to be chalky, and it's up to you to figure out whether you want to eat that chalk in tournaments or, like last night, could you have broken away from the chalk? Sure. Maybe if you would have gotten lucky, but you know what? I don't think I've ever seen an 8-game NBA slate, a slate that big in the NBA, where there was like an 11-way tie for first place, in a tournament. Like, it's just chalky, man. So you just got to eat it. And yeah, so I'm willing to go ahead and eat some of it, and maybe if you want to be different in one or two spots, but you got to be prepared for. It's almost like Showdown. You got to be prepared for the tie. Either you want to play for the tie or you don't. And the tie is not a bad thing, because last night you still would have split the prize pool with a lot of people, and that's fine. But if you want to take risks, it's going to feel uncomfortable tonight. I'll tell you that.
Chop, is this your first NBA crunch time? I feel like you don't do NBA crunch time, but yeah, I'm sure you've seen it before. But yeah, they go position by position as opposed to game by game.
Oh, I didn't know we were calling this crunch time. Well, that's my apologies.
It's kind of, yeah, it's sort of what it is. Like it's all sort of melded. The whole thing is a new experience with the combination of the two sports.
This is a Taco Bell combo, Chop. We're getting crunchy, sweet, soft. Baja Blast. We're getting it all.
Yeah, I'm cool. I mean, yeah, whatever floats your boat.
Will, you've done crunch time plenty. Show Chop how it's done. As far as give me a rundown as far as your favorite plays, point guard specific. DK, and then feel free to jump over to FanDuel.
Well, I mean, on DK, I mean, I think, now that we've got Lauri ruled out, it's still not changing my opinion, and that's James Harden is the number one option tonight at 9,100. I do think Keontae George is in play, don't get me wrong, but I mean, I still think James Harden holds a lot of ceiling at 9,100. So once again, if James Harden was 10K, I wouldn't feel the same, but it's this price, I think that's been very intriguing. And he's been pretty productive. did a little write up on him today. I mean, he's pretty much averaging over a 30% usage rate, taking close to 20 shots a game most games. Interesting fact also, James Harden has not he's been over a double-digit assist in every game except one. And I think in that game it was 8, if I'm not mistaken, Dean, from when I was just, looking over things. So James Harden is still my number one option. And I think sometimes we will let the news sway us and we'll forget about the beard and then start just plugging in a bunch of 5K people. And then James Harden goes off for 58, 60 tonight. And we're like, oh, snap, I was on James Harden all day. And I hopped off because Lauri Markkanen was sitting. So I did want to encourage people, don't forget about James Harden. The ownership suggests he's still going to be fairly high owned, but I do really like him. Newsflash, Memphis is playing at one of the highest paces tonight. And I don't think anybody's thinking about playing Damian Lillard as much as some of these other guards. So, I just think even on a 4-game slate, it's easy to zig where everybody else is going to zag. And I like Dame here at 88. I think there's tremendous value in him when him and Giannis are the ones that are going to carry the scoring load. And against Memphis, I mean, he could absolutely put up a monster number here. So I don't want to exclude these bigger spins, Harden and Dame, because we've got all this cheap stuff. Now, once again, should you be playing Keontae George? Yes. I do think Keontae George is in play for sure. Absolutely someone you should be considering. But if I'm still going to be playing Harden and Lillard primarily. And then if you really want to get up to Luka, I think it's fine. Like, we're getting really low ownership on Luka tonight. And he hasn't had the same peripheral since Clay's been there, but we still know this guy's got 75 fantasy points locked up inside of him anytime he takes the floor. And so when we're getting him at what I would consider a fraction of the ownership than what we're used to getting compared to some of these other guys, I definitely think Luka is a viable spend up against Houston. Like Harden more, but I don't want to exclude Luka because while it feels like he's the obvious person to talk about, the ownership suggests a lot of people aren't going to play him tonight.
This is going to change, by the way, but yeah, DK has Harden at 34% as far as ownership, 24 for Kyrie, Lillard at 20, Luka at 18, and George at 14, and that's going to spike up, I'm afraid. Really bummed that news came out before the first game. George is the only player on Utah that's played 30 minutes in every single game this year. And why? Because he's been terrible, and Utah wants to lose. He played 30 minutes in a 41-point loss to Golden State, but he's not this terrible. He's not that awful. He's shooting 26.2% of the season. The opportunity will be there. I promise you, he's going to shoot better than that going forward. Otherwise, he'll be out of the league, and he's not that terrible. So he is my favorite play. I'm just kind of bummed that he will also be popular, I imagine. Pippen for Memphis. I don't know if you mentioned him or not, but he looks pretty interesting as well. He's been spectacular. The minutes are kind of tricky, but we're projecting 29 for him off the bench right now. Chop, point guard, what do you got to add?
Yeah, he summed it up pretty good. I mean, my favorite play is James Harden. In tournaments, well, it's not even tournament. I would say Kyrie Irving feels like a tournament play to me, but the ownership doesn't say he's a tournament play. It says he's pretty chalky, and that probably drives me away from it. Man, I'm probably still going to play him though. So I think there's a
right, Chop? Condensed ownership. That's just how it goes.
Yeah, and that game might have the most likelihood of staying like really super competitive, maybe. But the other games, like there's definitely a path for major blowouts there. So I like him. Keontae George, you mentioned, he's good. I think with the news of Memphis, Pippen is fine. I'm not a big Van Vliet guy right now. I think he's got to show me a little bit more in this rotation and his usage for me to be a Van Vliet guy. But so you got to just be uncomfortable, right? And the one thing that I kind of looked at when they said those guys were out for Memphis. Oh, and then by the way, Concher's out too. Like, all those guys were ruled out. Then later on, Concher was even ruled out. I was like, let's see what we're doing with Ja Morant. And I'm looking like, wait a minute.
His minutes have been down.
Yeah, that projection, it's kind of reflective of that. But it'd be ludicrous to think that he's not a guy who could come out here tonight and have a monster game. I mean, with all the with all the things going on with that team right now, and he's going to draw no ownership at this projection / price. So I think that's the GPP play, but it's obviously risky. But you know who else had a really was on a minutes limit and people were scared to play him was RJ Barrett last night, and he crushed in his 33-minute. Didn't go that far over what he was getting, just a few minutes over. But you know, you get all that extra usage. Just like Ja tonight, it could be 30 minutes for him tonight. Could be a slate breaker. I don't know, just me.
Yeah, they've been babying him a little bit, 28, 24, 25, 29, but I guess it's possible. And you know he wants to play 33, 34. I would just counter all, and again, small slate, who cares? Like you said, the ownership's pretty low. It's not the best matchup with Lopez there waiting for him at the rim. You know, a little bit trickier, a little bit tougher to drive, but for sure, if you're running a bunch of lineups, like no way am I going to talk you out of playing Ja. By the way, we are projecting our official lineup here for Memphis: Ja, Laravia, Aldama, Triple J, and Edey. With Pippen and Clark, Huff, Wells. There's not much else, and and Yuki, who's the smallest player in basketball, like currently, and since I can't remember the last guy that was. I think he's 5'7", I want to say. So he's the 10th man. It looks like there's a person named Castleton who may be dressed. I don't think he has a salary. Okay. By the way, projections have been updated, so give it a refresh in the lineup HQ as well. Chop, jump to shooting guard.
Yeah, let's jump to shooting guard now. That's what we should do, is jump to shooting guard. So, you know, some of the same guys are in play right there. I think now that we've got the news, I would imagine that the chalky salary saver is Jalen Wells. You know, we'll see how that plays out. That's a tough one. It's one of those guys. He could absolutely crush tonight at this price tag, but there's also a chance maybe he doesn't, and he draws a whole lot of ownership. And that right, I am personally playing Norman Powell tonight, I believe. Although, you know, I don't know, man, because like the slate kicks off in like 30 minutes. We'll still be on air. I don't know if I'm gonna be able to edit or not, but Norman Powell is in play for me. I kind of like his upside tonight in this matchup. That should be a pretty good game too. Bradley Beal is in play at that price tag. There's not a lot here other than that. I mean, earlier in the day they were gonna give us Gary Trent chalk. I don't think that's the case anymore with the Memphis news, so that's good. Shooting guard looks pretty weak, to be honest with you. So Jalen Wells as chalk and Kyrie Irving as chalk. I think they're fine. I'm going with some Norman Powell, I think.
Just a heads up, Chop. You think shooting guard looks weak? Wait till small forward hits you. Small forward is gross. What do you got, Will? Anything you want to add on as far as what Chop says? Your favorite players, position by position. We're talking shooting guard, and feel free to jump over to FanDuel as well. A little bit of DK, a little bit of FanDuel. And I don't know if you guys know this, producer TJ.
It's really about the same, D, to be honest with you, because it's a 4-game slate. And they're going to, so maybe we should just do that, D. So I'm not really going to do this position by position thing completely like we usually do. I'm just going to go ahead and talk price differences and talk about why you probably still need to play them. So on FanDuel, and I kind of know this because I've already kind of written most of it up today, but like on FanDuel where Norman Powell's like 5,900 and Klay Thompson's like 56, they're still comparable on DK. I think you're still playing both. I still think you're playing Jordan Clarkson. Like he's 5,200 on DraftKings, so I think you need to be playing him. I feel like the biggest price discrepancy on FanDuel between FanDuel and DraftKings tonight is actually PJ Washington. Like PJ's 58 on FanDuel and he's 48 on DK, and so that's a really big price difference to me. So I think he's much more viable on DK to me. So that's kind of one of my fields. And then someone I thought was going to be pretty chalky earlier during the day, and I think he still might be much $500 more expensive on FanDuel. But I still think there's some meat on the bone because of the matchup against Utah. And that's Jeremy Socon. Socon is 5,800 on DraftKings. He's 6,300 on FanDuel. And that was a pretty big discrepancy. If you want to say that Ivica Zubac is a bigger discrepancy, fine, no problem. I think it's like a $900 difference. He's 7,400 on FanDuel and 6,500 on DK. But I still think you can get to him on both sites. And then in terms of Giannis, he's another discrepancy. But I do think he's more valuable on FanDuel, but I wouldn't ignore him on DK. This matchup with Memphis is very tasty. Not sure if people have already started hopping into the pace of play and defensive efficiency. But let me tell you, Utah and Memphis, fast-paced teams, little to no defense. So if you keep attacking these teams each and every night, just like Atlanta and Washington are, not going to play defense, play the fast pace, you're going to start coming out ahead. So sorry, Dean, I know I kind of changed the format there, but I think those players specifically are important.
Both you guys changed the format.
But Dean,
neither one of you guys wanted to play along.
I was position by position, man.
Job learns on the air. This is how.
We got to spice this thing up, Dean. And then if you want to talk about all of this Memphis value that has rained upon us since these guys are sitting, you can clean it up with the Memphis value. But hopefully we've covered enough of the price discrepancies, and hopefully that helped people out. So there you go, Dean. I'm going to hand it to you. You can clean up and talk about all this Memphis value that's ready to be placed into our lineups, and then we'll come back and talk some tournament stuff. Ask me who people don't want to play tonight, and I'll talk about those guys.
I'm the only guy that reads TJ's show notes, apparently. It's fine.
Well, I'm actually helping us save time, Dean. I'm helping us by getting through all of that riff-raff.
I did take a peek there at the chat, and Eric makes a good point. I wrote about this earlier today. The pace at Milwaukee, Memphis pace, both those teams, 4th and 6th as far as pace, and I think they're both bottom 10 so far. It's small sample stuff, right? I don't want to lose my mind over it, but it is worth noting both those teams bottom 10 defensively as well. So probably the best game environment of the night is Milwaukee, Memphis. That's why my favorite stud, if we're going to go amongst the top 3, we'll cut it off there. I know you like the beard, but Chop, you got to pick amongst who you building your lineup around, Luka, Giannis, or Wemby. You got to pick one of those 3.
Well, I can tell you right now, process of elimination, Wemby's gone. He's out of there. I don't know. He's just, he's out of there. It's Giannis. Luka has
my favorite too.
Yeah, Luka's, we're splitting hairs on some of the Wemby hasn't really, I'm not saying there's anything wrong with him, but he just hasn't looked like as dominating to start the year just yet. So I would eliminate him. Luka has to contend with Kyrie. Could always be a Kyrie game. And I really haven't dug into how Luka performs against. I would imagine they're going to stick Dylan Brooks on him. And I know Dylan's not the same, I don't know. May give him, I don't know. Giannis he's a beast, man. By the way, the Athletic did a trade for Giannis scenario. What would it cost? And
Miami?
No. For Houston, man, it was brutal. It was a lot. So I don't know if he's worth all that. I don't know. Well, how old is he? He's probably
28.
Going to be coming up on exiting his prime pretty soon. I don't know, but yeah, he'd be that guy. He'd be that guy.
29.
Okay, yeah, and then
30 in December.
And you know what Will also said there that was interesting was the pace and matchups, and you attack them, and eventually you're going to hit. You know who else said attack the matchups in the NBA? Squirrel Patrol. R.I.P. Squirrel Patrol.
Shout out to Squirrel.
Yeah.
Good for his squirrel.
Yeah. That's in part why we're here tonight. And also
to be clear, a shout out, not a literal RIP, but we miss our boy.
There you go. But Bucks starting lineup: Lillard, Trent, Prince, Giannis, Lopez. No surprises there. The one I'm waiting for is Memphis. Memphis, 20 minutes till the game starts in typical NBA fashion. We have no clue. They have no clue. They're still figuring it out. Who's going to start tonight for the Grizzlies? We have to pick up the pace because we got to take some football as well. We'll give you the your favorite power forwards. Favorite power forwards, however you want to do it. FanDuel, DK, give me the rundown. And I see TJ's doing an excellent job answering questions in chat as well. So appreciate TJ multitasking.
Yeah, man, love Giannis tonight. I think he's one of the best big spins, and we really aren't getting ownership that's out of control on him. A lot of the cheaper guys are going to be more expensive. So I love him. I talked about PJ Washington a little bit. This is more DraftKings specific, but really like him at 4,800. And his ownership isn't going to creep up as much now because We've got Filipowski. I even like Harrison Barnes at power forward at 4,600. I think Harrison Barnes is the quintessential Spurs player. It doesn't feel good. It sounds yucky, but guess what? He could easily put up 30, and all these guys could put up, 28 to 30, and he could be right there. So remember, it's a smaller slate. Where are we going to get different? We might have to get different with some of these cheaper guys. I get it. It's Harrison Barnes. He's blah, but he's 4,600, and he will fit and give you some salary relief. I feel like more people may even be interested in John Collins by the time this thing is up. I don't know how many minutes John Collins is going to get. It would be nice if they gave him 30-plus minutes. I don't think that's happening, but at 5,600, I think in tournaments, you definitely take a shot. Somebody made a really interesting point here. I chuck up the deuces, and he was saying Milwaukee actually has just as bad a defense as those two. And absolutely, I chuck up the deuces. You are right.
So far.
And in fact, they weren't great last year either. So this didn't just sneak up on us. You send Drew Holiday packing, and you bring in Damian Lillard. Your offense might get better, but your defense will absolutely get worse. And so I think we're seeing the residuals of that, especially with Chris Middleton hurt the past 2 seasons. So I took up the deuces, and I definitely think that game in general, which is why it's so interesting for you to be able to run some of those Memphis pieces back. If you want to run back a Jake LaRavia, and some of these other guys, I definitely think that is viable. 4K range is stacked tonight at power forward, despite how yucky we may have thought it was going to be.
By the way, I'm so tilted. They announced that Filipowski is starting already. But one time Utah was efficient. Like I thought the one edge was like people are going to play. They don't know Markkanen's not playing. Utah's giving away all the goods. So Filipowski is going to be super chalky. He's officially starting now for not the official lineup, but he's in it. We got 20%. So he's going to be starting for Utah. Chop, anything else you want to add as far as power forward? We touched on Giannis. Aldiba's another interesting piece for Memphis. He probably is going to play around 30 minutes. LaRavia going to probably play around 30 minutes or so. Like I said, a lot of injuries there. Collins is a guy that could get pumped up a little bit. Not sure if he starts. Probably doesn't. Yeah, I assume he doesn't. I assume it's Kessler starting alongside Filipowski, but probably playing 25-ish or so off the bench. Chop, anything you want to add as far as power forward? Otherwise, jump to center.
Sochan's been great this year. They're giving him a lot more responsibility. The Memphis, just Jaren Jackson. Like, there's a lot of guys out. They're gonna score.
Minutes are the problem again there.
Let's just say they get held to I've said this before. Okay, they absolutely are terrible on offense, and they only score 90 points. Well, who's going to get the 90 points? Like, it's going to be somebody's got to score points. So Jaren Jackson has the possibility of doing that. And then you mentioned the value play now, which is his nickname is Lawrence of LaRavia, by the way. So
I don't think that's correct.
Yeah. So he's pretty good too. Let's go with because he can stuff the sheet. When he gets minutes, he can stuff the sheet. He's pretty good like that. So then you go to center. The center is we've talked about Giannis and a couple of the other guys, but the one guy I don't think we've talked about yet that's center only that will be on my lineup for sure is Zubac. Mm-hmm. Love him. He's a good play today. He's crushing it this year. He works well with Harden. I think I wrote that up in the survey today. Plays well off of Harden without Paul George and without Kawhi Leonard. Like, he's setting career marks with assists, so it's great like that. He runs a really good two-man game with Harden, and so he's center only. So that's kind of where I'm going with that position. And then Giannis is double eligible, and then you've got the Dallas guys if you want to take a shot there. I don't particularly like that, but that's kind of where I am at center.
1.24 DK fantasy points a minute for Zubac, and he's got to play a pile because they really don't have a lot of offensive players. Earlier in the day, we were a lot of Clippers were hitting stuff, and I did not get it. Didn't make any sense. Now I assume it's going to – I haven't run anything yet, but I assume it's going to go to Utah and Memphis with the new news coming out. But, yeah, I don't really like anybody on the Clippers.
But, Dean, that's the point I was trying to make earlier about Harden, about Giannis, about Sohan, all these other guys. Like, the shiny new news toy comes out, and everybody hops off the good plays that they were going to play at 10 o'clock this morning that are still good plays, right? Like, this value isn't guaranteed to crush. I'm not saying it will or won't. I'm saying I don't think we need to be hopping off of this Jeremy Sohans and the.
I like Sohan.
Yeah, but I'm saying you were talking about some of these Clippers
the Clippers
guys.
I don't like.
I don't still fine though.
Powell a little bit.
Still, but that's what I'm saying. You see, like that's what everybody's going to do in tournaments. They're going to say, "Oh, I don't need Powell now. I'm just going to go and play this $3,900 Wells." And Wells goes out and scores 15, and Powell drops 40, and you just lost because you pivoted from good plays that were happening earlier in the day. Hey, maybe I'm in the minority. I'll accept that. I'm just saying I still think you need to hold on to the good plays that you were looking at earlier and then incorporate some of the new ones. Too often we get off the ones we've been on all day, and then you start kicking yourself because here's what you're going to say, Dean, not you, us. We'll say, I was on that guy all day, and then all this Utah value came out. I started cramming in Utah value, and I lost.
You got to play Filipowski.
Maybe you do. Maybe you don't.
I'm making a joke. Like, you don't have to. You don't have to, obviously. Like, who's
so anyway, I'm just encouraging everybody to do that. Hold on to the good plays that you liked earlier, and then make start building around that. Maybe you flip one or two, Dean. I'm basically saying don't just blow up your whole construct because Memphis and Utah are giving you seemingly all the value. There's still good plays outside of that you're going to need to win.
The people want to play some football tonight as well. We have to pivot to football in a second. Do we have a plums? I want a plums play for both football and for basketball. So I'll start my plums. I think I made it pretty clear. Keontae George wrote about him earlier today. And again, I'm bummed that like all of a sudden everybody's going to gravitate to him now. I think Utah's going to be really popular. Clarkson as well. If not George, I think I have one of, if not both those guys in every lineup I made. I only made a few because doing this basketball right after the bell is not a fun. I would say not fun. It's not optimal. It's not the best way to be making lineups because you got to multitask and it's kind of tricky. Are we getting a Memphis lineup? Because it's been 10 minutes. Here we go. It's Ja. It's Wells. Ja, Wells, Aldama, Triple J, and Edey. So Wells drawing the start for Memphis. Okay. By the way, here's another bold call. This isn't a plums play. This isn't really going to help you out, but Giannis dunks on Edey tonight. He posterizes him. There you go. That's going to happen too. Chop, give me a plums play.
That's not really a bold call.
He jumps like twice a game. Like
he's a statue. Edey's a statue.
He's going to dunk on him. And
you say Edey's going to dunk on Giannis.
No. Giannis is going to dunk on. Yeah. Remember Vince Carter in the Olympics? That's what Giannis is going to do to Edey.
Oh, okay. All right. Yeah. Sort of. Edey just stands there. He ain't going to do nothing. I got to go with Zubac. Plums play of the night for NBA. Got to go Zubac, man. I can't get away from that, even though there's a lot of value out there now. I'm going Zubac.
Will see Zubac and raise him. What do you got? Who's your plums play tonight in the association?
I think it's James Harden, man. Feels like this spot continues to be wide open for him. Give me James Harden on the high end. Give me someone that's going to get ignored on the back end. Give me PJ Washington at 4,800. Everybody's hopping off now because of all this other value, and he's just going to go out there and stick 40 right down their throats.
Manny with the call in chats, he says that Yuki's going to dunk on Giannis, which is spectacular. That's a bold call. It's not going to happen, but that is a bold call for sure. We didn't really talk a lot about Durant. Of course, you can play Durant. Personally, not my favorite. I'm not making enough lineups to get there, but never going to besmirch. Okay, let's go ahead and talk about. If there's other questions in football, as far as basketball, do our best to answer those as well in chat. I know TJ's multitasking. Please bear with us. It's tricky as far as the schedule. They're sort of overlapping. We got 25 minutes until kickoff. Tonight is the Houston Texans. They're taking on the New York Jets. Jets are 2-point favorites. Of course, Collins is out for Houston. He's been out for a while. I think he's coming back week 10, they're saying. Diggs, ACL, so he's donezo as well. So Houston is pretty thin as far as receivers. We know what a disaster this season's been for the Jets as well. Chop, do you want to give us like an overview on this game? Like, did you just sort of say like, this is how I think the game's going to go, and you write a little script based upon it? You go in like 5-1. Is it going to be a blowout? How are we approaching Houston and the Jets?
Yeah, That's the first way I think you should do it, and that's the first way I do my showdown stuff is to think of the game script I like the most, and then try to construct it like that. And so this one right here, this is just a weird, tricky game because I want to say that let's fire up, some offensive players here that I think they can get it done. These defenses might be a tad bit overrated, but then I look at Houston and how much can CJ Stroud do with he's missing arguably his two best wide receivers for sure. Nico Stephon Diggs was at worst number 3 for him, so he's missing a lot of weapons right there. And on the flip side, Aaron Rodgers just flat out hasn't looked very good. So man, it's tough, but I'm still going to attack it like that. So I'm attacking it as if Stroud's going to have a good game, and Joe Mixon is not. That Joe Mixon is going to get shut down. They're going to make a concerted effort to limit Joe Mixon. And on the flip side, I think that even though I don't want to play Aaron Rodgers, I do like both of his wide receivers. I'm trying to pick one, either Adams or Wilson. But I really like Breece Hall too. Even though the Houston can shut down the run, they're pretty good at that. Breece Hall is a different kind of beast. And so I'm probably getting a lot of Breece Hall.
How about yourself, Will? How are you approaching the Jets in Houston?
So interesting fact, Houston right in the middle of the pack in terms of points per game this season, averaging, I think, around 23, if I'm not mistaken, 23 and a half. Jets at the back half of the league, averaging 18.8 points per game. And Houston is now down some weapons. And they've had some injuries, obviously, just ravished by injuries. But I actually think this game is going to be a semi shootout tonight, for what it's worth. I don't see this as like a 15-12 type game, and I know that maybe stretching a little bit. I think this game ends up somewhere 27-24, 31-28. Like that's kind of how I peg this game. It's a short week. Yeah, well, it's a short week too, Dean. Like, and at some point, is it having Devontae Adams and Garrett Wilson going to help open up Aaron Rodgers to more fantasy scoring? Like, here's the thing now. Over the past couple of weeks, it feels like this offense has been anemic. Aaron Rodgers has been throwing for 230-plus yards. They just haven't been able to win games and score points. Similar situation to C.J. Stroud, where most weeks C.J. Stroud is throwing for 240-plus, 230, 240-plus. So if these quarterbacks are going to get off, then the ball's got to go somewhere. I think we see some scoring here. Houston definitely a team. If you are playing Showdown, the coach is definitely not afraid to take his field goals. Like Kami Fairbairn's kicking 2-3 field goals a game, so they want to keep scoring. DeMeco Ryans is not afraid to push it down the field between the 20s and take his points. So I think the Jets can hang around in that fashion. I don't think Houston's going to pull away, and I also don't think the Jets are going to pull away. I think this is a tight mid to high scoring game tonight. I'm building for wide receiver upside, as evidenced by the fact that in my initial run, I had John Mechie about 78% of my lineups. Now I'm trying to get that down. I can't do 78% Mechie. That's going to make me cry.
Seems too high.
But I'm definitely building for both teams to push the ball down the field. And I'm not going to build as heavy on the running backs because everybody else is doing that.
So I did run SimLabs. I ran about 100 lineups. I see.
Hey, Chop's raising the hand, D. You got to let the man get in. Got to let him get in.
All right, Chopper, go ahead.
First of all, I just want to say that our guy, Carolina guy, is in chat. He's the FanDuel guy, and we always answer his FanDuel question. TJ did, but I'll give my thoughts too. So favorite GPP, large field on FanDuel, like large field, right? This is not for the squeamish and the small fields. It's Devontae Adams on FanDuel because they'll go to the running backs first, the quarterbacks first, then the running backs. But we want touchdowns. And if there is a wide receiver in this game that has the ability to score more than one touchdown or two touchdowns, it's definitely Devontae Adams. So I like that one. Low owned flex is a guy that I was going to comment on right now after Chief just said what he said. Low owned flex, large field, Xavier Hutchinson. And then what I was going to say, my 2 cents on when Chief said he had a lot of Mechie, when I look at Mechie and Hutchinson, and they might have a third guy who might get a little run tonight, very little. When I look
They're
at
similarly projected for what it's worth. Not the
when I look at let me see. I forget who that other guy was.
Robert Woods. It's Robert Woods.
Yeah, Robert Woods is washed, man.
Oh,
but when I look
at Robert Woods,
when I look at Mechie and Hutchinson, going back to watching both of these guys for several years back in college, Hutchinson is better. He's just flat out better. So I'm on Hutch tonight instead of Mechie. Not saying I won't have some mixed in the multi lineups, but I like Hutch.
Let me throw this in there also. I was on Hutchinson over 19.5 receiving yards earlier today in the day. I'm not sure, it's probably bumped some by now, but it was 19.5 when I got up this morning. So I didn't hammer it, but I got that in a fair amount of things. So hopefully that works out for us, Chop.
That was Hutchinson you're talking about? You had a 19.5?
Yeah, Hutchinson, yep.
I'm seeing it now at depending on where you're shopping, 22.5 on FanDuel, 20.5 on DK.
How about this one? If you like Hutchinson, the bet with him, if you can find it, is, and it's a long shot, but it's a touchdown because he's a big body guy that can get it done in the red zone.
Well, let me see if I can find it. I'm pulling it up on Scores and Odds, and it's a quick way to help us out here. Let's see if we can get that. Oh, I don't like these odds at all. 6-1 for Hutchinson. That's the best we can get. It's 350 on DK. That kind of stinks.
Whoa, yeah, that's a ripoff, man.
That's a bad number.
You would expect a guy that's that down on the depth chart, has that few snaps this year, that he wouldn't be that low. That's not
6-1. Would you play 6-1 on FanDuel? That's the best I see available.
I mean, I'm not that guy to ask about, like, is this a good value? I like him. I think he's got the ability to score touchdowns, but that seems really like a bad price.
Yeah, don't love it. I do love your call there, Chop, as far as FanDuel. With typically it's really hard. There's no penalty as far as the salary, so it's really hard to like not put Josh Allen or someone like that in the captain. But there's no clear cut, like super obvious, like this is the guy that's going to score the most fantasy points tonight in this game. There's certainly players that are projected that. What do you got, Will?
Well, I was going to say on DraftKings, like Tank Dell really isn't getting a lot of ownership at captain. I mean, look, man, and Dean, I know you don't necessarily watch a lot of college football, but I know Chop does and I do. And man, Tank Dell was a tank in college, and so obviously he's going to garner number one attention tonight. But this is a guy; he's got big play upside. I mean, he's 160-yard catch away from breaking the slate. So I'm heavy on Tank Dell in captain tonight for what it's worth.
Yeah, well, I was talking about FanDuel where like there's no hit. I
got you. I just want to.
But I like the Dell call. Like we're talking about the fringe receivers. Like, what if Dell just gets like 13 targets? And I'm sure Chop has watched a lot of Tank because that's on your Cougars, right, Chopper? You got to be a Tank guy.
I'm a huge Tank Dell fan, man. Huge Tank Dell fan, Dean. We are 30 seconds from the NBA lock-in, so it doesn't look like there's any more news coming in right now. So we're straight right there.
I don't think so. Your lineup's good? At least until the game start?
NBA, I made a swap here while y'all were talking. So I got Jaren Jackson in there. I talked myself into a little Jaren Jackson. So
I built my stuff pre-show under the assumption Markkanen's not going to play. So I have like 3 Jasmine on every team. And I also had Wells in there because I thought he would crack. So I think I didn't change anything. I think I'm okay. We'll see until the games actually start playing. And yeah, I think TJ is still answering. Yeah, he's our MVP tonight. TJ is talking about Mixon MVP. TJ is the MVP because he's answering all sorts of questions. He's producing the show. We got 15 minutes until kickoff. Like I was saying before, I did run SimLabs. The most popular captain I got here, Chop, I think you were talking about as well. I got 30% Breece Hall, 23% Mixon, 9% Rodgers. And again, I just don't like, again, you tell me, Chop, this is more your real. I dabble in Showdown. This isn't my area of specialty. I don't pretend to be that guy. But like quarterback that can't move in captain, like what is his upside? Like I don't see it. What's the story that Aaron Rodgers, captain is the winner? Tell me that story because I don't.
So the story would be that number one, the Jets are at home and they are the slight favorite in this game. So let's say they outscore Houston so they outscore Houston. and Houston can come in, make an effort to shut down Breece Hall. And like Chief said, he now has 2 bona fide weapons he can pick and choose from. And it's not like he doesn't run at all anymore. Nothing, man. But he is still racking up 225 plus yards every week. He's just not scoring any touchdowns. Maybe tonight's the night he scores a few touchdowns through the air. He's got the 2 weapons. That's the story you're telling, is that Houston's deficient in the secondary, and that the Jets
nobody catches more than 1 touchdown, obviously. And the other thing is with Rodgers is he's a greedy Gus. He's a greedy Gus at the goal line. He loves his 1-yard touchdown passes that are essentially.
Does he have one? I don't even think he's doing that anymore. He's scared.
No, he had it last. Did he had it last week, or was it last week or the week before? Was it the Adams? Am I?
Making
this up?
You mean what? Are you saying
Rodgers? No. The 1 yard. He loves the 1 yard touchdown.
Yeah. You're right. I thought you meant rushing. He used to run them in. He used to run them in from the 1 yard. He's scared to run now, so you're not getting that. But yeah, the 1 yard touchdown pass, that's like clockwork with those 2 guys.
He loves it. Yeah.
But there's certainly a world where 1 to Conklin, 1 to Adams, and 1 to another stray out there. Who knows? But yeah, that's the story you tell with that one, and I get it. And I think that's actually more likely than a lot of other game scripts out there. I think he's been not great, but he does got the weapons now. Maybe he's in there.
Yeah, and let me just piggyback off Chop here a little bit, because that's kind of the way what I was trying to explain earlier, the way I'm building. I feel like everybody's building a Breece or Mixon like game script. You know what I'm saying, Chop? And nobody's building for the passing game. And that's kind of where I wanted to plant my flag. Build for the not saying we don't include the running backs.
If Mixon does this again to me,
he's been awesome, by the way.
Yeah.
He's one of the best running backs in
the league. Totally shocking. Like, he was not washed, by the way. Like,
very good.
I will definitely eat the crow on that one. Like, he was not washed. He's very good, but he can't keep getting away with this. Like, at some point, somebody's got to defend him, man. I think it's the Jets. So I think hopefully it's the Houston passing game on point tonight. But what do we got, Dean? Hold on. Let me check the timestamp here. About 11.
Give us the Jesse Pinkman, by the way. You can't keep giving away with it.
He's a little busy, man.
He's a little busy.
Yeah,
I'm giving him more on display. Yeah. But what are we doing? What are we checking the timestamp for? What are we doing with timestamps?
Just to make sure we're winding how much time we're winding down here, and
11 minutes. 11 minutes. Yeah. Do you have to adjust some lineups, Chop? You got to step us. We have to make sure we get out of here. Before.
Nah, I think I'm straight now, but just somewhere around whatever mark, a few minutes before we exit, whenever that is. We got to do the plums. Fill it in the plums. I know our boy Butthole ain't here. I ain't seen his
DJ showing off.
But here we go.
All right, go ahead. I derailed the show. My apologies.
No.
Well, do you have a favorite captain? Did you already say your favorite captain? Give me your favorite captain.
It's Tank Dell.
Yeah.
Oh, come on now.
I like that call too.
Come on now.
Yeah. Do you have a bold fade, if there's such a thing? Like, what's you're going to be lowest in the field in comparison? Like, you're lower to the field, but the most, the biggest amount. Who's that player? You guys have one?
It's both. It's both of the running backs.
Yeah.
And when I'm saying fade, I'm saying like you said, lower than the field. Clearly, I'm not going to build without playing some Joe Mixon and Breece Hall, but I'm way heavier on the passing game.
Chop, you got an answer for that? Like, the player.
Oh, I've already said it like a bunch of, like, I am there were a few builds where Mixon kind of came into play, and I had to stick him in those particular builds, but I'm way, way under on Mixon. I've got like very limited Joe Mixon tonight. So like I said, if he buries me, then we just move on to the next showdown.
Yeah, that's. How about Stroud? Are we not playing Stroud? I know he's losing some of his pieces, some of his options. Schultz is another guy I don't think we talked about. Another option that might get a couple more balls thrown his way. Chop, you have a take as far as Stroud, and maybe we're talking about these cheapy receivers. Maybe spend a little more on a known quantity in Schultz.
Man, CJ Stroud. I'm not saying he's been terrible this year, not by any stretch, but I think we kind of expected a little more out of him after that rookie year, right? Like, I feel like he hasn't quite lived up to it. So I'm a little worried about him, but that's the build I like. And he's got the lack of weapons tonight, which was supposed to be his major strength coming into the year. Oh man, look, he's got not just Nico and Tank back. They went out and got Diggs, and Mixon can catch the ball out of the backfield, but he's been worse than last year, and it's been pretty shocking. But I still like that side of the build. I still like him back. Dean, I'll tell you what, Dean. I don't want to leave the people hanging.
Give him the plums. Let's give it to him.
We got about 8 minutes left. This will get, just in case it sways anything. This will give them a few minutes to get it in, and then we can really open up and talk, because I feel like I don't want to step on my plums. You know what I mean? I don't want to step on my plums.
Understood.
You know what I mean? But I'm going to go first, Dean, because I don't want you guys stealing my guy, because it's my University of Houston buddy, Tank Dell. That's my
Will already said he already claims him.
No. Will can't. No. That's my guy. We're from the same hood.
Hey,
okay.
Chop gets to override when it's a Cougar. Will allow.
Yes. We're from the same hood, man. I got him locked in. I've locked Tank Dell into every lineup I made tonight in the captain spot. So I'm riding and dying with Tank Dell. I feel like he's had I actually don't think he's 100% from the injury last year. I think that did catch him off. He hasn't quite recovered from that, but he's going to get bombarded. There's a great chemistry between those two. He's going to get a lot of targets tonight. And
is Sauce going to be on him? Do we care about that?
We don't care anymore, because Sauce has actually been bad this year.
Is he bad now?
Yeah, and there is not a guy in this league, if you're going to play man-to-man coverage, there's not a guy that can hang with Tank Dell. He gets so much separation. CJ Stroud just needs to have a decent game, and Tank will put up numbers tonight.
So Chop, let me throw this at you, because I've been kind of tracking this, because and yes, from a fantasy perspective, like CJ Stroud hasn't been getting it done. But like, if you look at his passing numbers outside of that one game against Green Bay where he had 86 yards, like, he's been fine. 234, 260, 215 against Minnesota at Minnesota, where Minnesota just pretty much had a short field all game. 345 against Jacksonville, 331 against Buffalo, 192 against New England, where they won that game in a blowout, 86 against Green Bay, and 285 against Indy. Like, realistically, he's just not getting touchdowns because Joe Mixon is running them all in. His passing numbers are still roughly where we need him to be. He throws 2 touchdowns in any of these games, 2 extra touchdowns, or 2 touchdowns, period, in any of these games. And now he's vaulted up to being a 20 fantasy point scorer pretty much every week. So I'm still that's another reason why I'm so high on this passing game tonight. Like, I think people are diminishing what Stroud's been doing because of his fantasy points, but he's still pushing the ball down the field.
Will, your plums play?
Well, look, man, if I can't have my boy Tank Dell, let me just give it to the guy that's going to be throwing it to him, and that's CJ Stroud. I just kind of made my spiel about the fact that all we need him to do is actually put the ball in the end zone, and the fantasy points will come. The yards are there. I'm sticking with Stroud here in a matchup on the road against a Jets team that's been struggling all season.
So, cheapest player under like 2K, 3K that you guys are willing to play, that you feel most confident is going to do something. I ran some optimal stuff, and Cade Stover is hitting some lineups for like a projection of like 3 to 4 points. Just, to make stuff happen at 1-1-6. We talked about Michi as well. Around 5 is his projection. Dare is another guy I guess you can consider the backup RB there for Houston. Well, who's your favorite like cheapie to make stuff work around 2-3K?
Yeah, it's Hutchinson. It's definitely Hutchinson. I've got my main team, I think, has 4 or 5. I think it has 5 Texans and 1 Jet. I think it is however it's set up. But and that includes the 4 of Tank Dell, CJ Stroud, Hutchinson, and I've got Kami Fairbairn in there also. I won't give you the rest, but that's at least 4 of what I have.
Geez, Jeremy Ruckert is hitting a couple lineups too. Good Lord, it's gross. Chop, you have your favorites, however you want to, I don't know if favorite's the right word, but The one you feel like most confident in, I suppose, 2K or less on DK? Nonsense player?
Ooh. I mean, 2K or less,
there's nonsense out there, yeah.
Well, that's what showdowns are. Like that's just what it would be. Kate Stover, only because he's already a guy who's going to see, he already sees some pretty decent amount of offensive snaps. He's already kind of in the mix for being targeted every once in a while, and now you're taking those receivers out. So maybe you're hoping he gets a little bit of a bump, but that's pushing it. I actually like his teammate at the tight end position. I think Dalton Schultz. If Tank Dell doesn't blow up, which is a possibility, it's Dalton Schultz that will. So one of those two guys, but Schultz actually like Schultz quite a bit actually.
And Schultz
who wins the game?
Schultz had a target line of 6.5 today, which suggests he will be seeing, a fair amount of work tonight.
Who wins the game tonight?
Man, give me the Texans. I don't believe in the Jets.
Take the points.
Oh, man.
2 points.
This is what you call do
desperate
or die.
New York team.
This is what you call do or die for the Jets. It doesn't get any more. You cannot lose this game again on national. By the way, quit.
Enough with New York.
Yes, please flex us out at some point, man. Get the Jets off my screen on Thursdays and Mondays, please. It's do or die for them.
Enough with Dallas too, Chop. Enough with Dallas.
I can't. Well, that's Dallas.
They're at least fun.
I mean, I'm with you.
But not when they lose about 40 points every week.
Well,
they're a bad team. There's no doubt they're a bad team. But it's do or die for the Jets. I want to go Houston, but man, it's hard to go against a team that has to win this game, and that's what it is. So I would say the Jets pull it out, squeak it out.
I don't know what the numbers are, but I just feel like Thursday night on the road is a tough thing to pull off. I don't know if that's, I'm sure I'm not, John Anthony, the guy that's like a 71% or whatever as far as pick'ems, but it just seems like a tough spot for Houston. And we know they're without two of their top receivers. Collins coming back soon, but not tonight. Well, I know you have some prop stuff. We have a couple minutes before you step aside and get out of here. Did you happen to have a favorite prop or two in the bag?
One of them was CJ Stroud. It's been fluctuating, so I'm not sure it's that, but I got him at, more than 220 to 221.5 passing yards. I was able to get Tank Dell more than 4.5 receptions. I took, like I told you, Xavier Hutchinson more than 19.5 receiving yards. This is one me and Blender talked about this morning. Braylon Allen, more than 20.5 rushing yards. Like Kami Fairbairn, we got fantasy points, but I think that's bumped a little bit. I don't. If you can get them at more than 1.5 field goals for a reasonable price, I get it. I took, more than 7.5 kicking points, and then I took, once again, I like the passing game here, so I took Rodgers and Stroud more than passing yards. Rodgers was around 232.5. And then I took the receivers also, but that was a little earlier today where I got Adams at 57.5, Wilson at 61, Tank Dell at like 55.5. And I think a lot of those guys have bumped, 3 or 4 yards, 2 to 3 yards. They're not there anymore. But that's kind of where I am. I do really like both passing games tonight for what it's worth.
Did TJ have a take? I don't know, before he steps aside and get out. I know he's doing all sorts of content. It sounds like he's playing the slate as well. If you have a take, by all means, TJ, fire it off before you step aside and get out of here. TJ, what do you
got? Nothing totally new. I love the calls we've had on potential Devontae Adams as a captain or an MVP is a way to get different today. Love the Tank Dell call. I'm going heavy on Mixon. I think that's the one place I differ from most of you guys. But one super duper cheap name I'll throw out there right as we hit lock, so I guess it doesn't matter. But I got him on a couple teams. Is for $600. I have Sims for Houston. He's their wide receiver 5 and their punt returner, just in case he gets in there and does something a little wacky.
Double dip that just happened. The double dip just paid off. Was it last showdown? Double dip paid off for. Oh Austin. Man, who was it? There you go, Austin for Pittsburgh.
It did once earlier this year for Shaheed too.
Oh man, I think I'm going to be betting Keontae George over on 24.5 PRA. I was waiting for a line. We couldn't get one until we got official news on marketing. And I might bet Wemby over on blocks 3.5. Utah is the most blocked team in all of basketball last season. I think they're top 2 or top 3. Small sample so far this year. A little bit concerned with the back-to-back stuff. He didn't play that hard, but I can see Wemby just getting a plethora of blocks against the likes of Kessler inside feel okay about that one. Chop, anything else before we step aside and get out of here?
We straight.
We will. I think next Thursday, I took a peek at the schedule, and I think it's the same deal. Next Thursday, I think we're doing the same thing because NBA and NFL, just the way, it's kind of a short NBA slate. We'll see. Check back. This is why you hit the subscribe button. This is why you like, so we go live. We do appreciate y'all hanging out with us. And we'll be back tomorrow talking some basketball on behalf of TJ, on behalf of Will and Chopper. I was Dean. We're out of here. Holler.